So first thing is we're going to read this book tonight. That's what this homework, read the book for 20 minutes means. Whoever your historical American is, you probably don't have Disney because only one kid has that. But the book I gave you, okay? So it needs to go home with you. You read for 20 minutes. The second part says HA planning sheet 5 facts. Today, everybody received this packet. This packet includes on the front how we're going to do this report. So if you want to know when is it due, okay, you can see that's around week 28 to 32, we will be turning it. Okay, so week 28 published, week 32, our report project is due. All right, right now we're in week 18, so 10 weeks, okay? And we will be doing the enhancement, which is a desk project for open house. That's what this says down here. If you open this up, some parents like to keep this page. So if you want to have, you know, mommy wants to pop that off and keep it on the refrigerator, you want to pop it off and keep it in your binder, cool. If you want to leave it on here, cool, okay? But it will help you to know what our pacing for this report is. So this says week 18, choose a person from American history. Did we already do that? Check. Week 19, read your biographical nonfiction resource. That's this. Read your book. Okay, so that's week 18 and 19. If you flip this, you will see the next page. Oh, I'm dropping everything. Hold on. You will see that the next page in the packet says planning sheet. Our planning sheet is exactly what our homework says to be working on tonight. And it says 5 facts. So what I want to talk to you about is, what do I mean by that? Well, first off, this is a packet. There's a page 1 at the bottom, and the very end of it is page 8. Okay, that's pretty large, right? 8 pages of writing for us to do. You have to be done with half of this packet by January 27th. So that's in just 15 days. Okay, so we got some time. And then the whole thing will be done by February 3rd. So we have time to do it. Let me explain to you how I want you to fill in your planning sheet. The first thing we want to do, I'm trying to lighten this up because the copier made a mess, is use the questions to write complete sentences. When we do our report, you remember how easy it is if I do a whole sentence right when I'm writing my notes? It will help me with my report when I do the drafting, okay? All sentences must be written with past tense verbs. Past tense verbs means ed ending most of the time. We've learned a lot about verbs already. So this report, because the person you're studying is passed away, you cannot say they live in Brea because they are not alive anymore. What would I need to do to that verb? Change it to lived, ed ending. So when you are writing your planning sheet, to make it easier for you, you want to use past tense verbs when you're writing the sentences. That way later on, you're not having to rewrite everything, okay? Keep this planning sheet with you as you read your resource. So as I'm reading my book, what do I want to have out with me? My planning sheet. That is going to be the secret to you getting the fastest way to get your homework done. Write in notes and information for the report as you read. So if I come across something in here that is important, like the birthday of this person, I want to get out my note sheet and write that down, okay? Make your report interesting by adding extra information that you read about your historical American. In other words, I don't want a snoring, boring report. Shh, that's so boring. I could have read the book. We want you to include cool things about this person, why they made American history. If they made American history because they invented something, should you tell a lot of details about that? Or just say they invented the phone? The end. What would be more interesting? More details, right? So the last thing Neatness and legibility, that's what it says here, will be graded. What is neatness and legibility? What does that mean? Your handwriting. So if you write like a sloppysaurus and I can't read what you wrote, I am not going to read it. I'm just going to tell you to redo it. Okay. So it won't count. You can just have a 0. So when you're writing, can you do me a favor and give effort to your penmanship? Make it nice. I don't want you writing in cursive, but I do want you writing in neat printing handwriting. Got it? All right. So let's look at the planning sheet. Miss Stith is famous for being a backwards worker. You guys know that, right? So I'm not going to shock you when I say I like to work backwards. Okay. When you are doing your planning sheet, the very first thing says introduction paragraph. My biggest secret weapon for your checkpoint on January 27th is do not do this page. But it's the first one. I know. But you are not going to need to write. Your introduction should be the most interesting and coolest stuff about your historical American. Are you going to probably read about that in the first 2 or 3 pages or 5 or 10 pages of the book? Probably not. So skip this page. Tonight when you're writing, don't write on introduction paragraph. All right. So we're going to skip that. Now, of course, Miss Stith has given a lot of effort to give you help. So when I put a QR code, guess what I want you to do? Scan it and watch it. There's a video here that talks about how to write a great introduction paragraph. It will inspire you. How many want to be inspired? Okay, so watch that. Should you read these instructions? Yes, absolutely. All right. So what you will notice is that this says you want an introduction sentence to hook the reader. Who is this person and why were they important? Should I answer this today? 2 or 3 character traits, the most important thing, and then 2 or 3 sentences to why they're important and a closing sentence. Don't do that page today. So skip the first page. When you do your homework tonight, I told you to write 5 facts. Your job is to fill out 5 things. Do you have to go in order? No, but chances are you're probably going to read about their birth and family life early on in the book, right? They have to be born before we could talk about the rest of their lives. So when you're working tonight, you want to fill out some of these things. So here's some things you might find. You might read about their birth date, their birthplace, where they were born, if they have brothers or sisters, who their parents were. Now, there's a lot of space here because I don't want you to just list who their parents are. That will not be helpful. You should put their names, but if their dad was a doctor and their mom stayed at home, could you include that information? What about if they didn't know their parents or they were adopted? Should you include that information? So when I said include interesting information about your historical American, that's what I mean. If you just list, this is when they were born, this is their brother, this is their sister, this is their dad, this is their mom, this is what their parents did for work, this is the important story, blah, blah, blah. Will that be a good report for later? No. So here's what we want to do. While we're reading, if I come across something that I go, oh, that's kind of cool, or, oh, I didn't know that, or, oh, that's an interesting fact, what should I do with that? Write it down. Okie dokie. Now, one caution. You cannot copy direct sentences out of the book. Did you know that's called plagiarizing? So let me tell you what I want you to do. If they say that they were born on the 4th of July in 1778, you can use the fact, but I want you to create your own sentence, okay? Do we understand that we can make our sentences more creative than what they put in the book? And then also, of course, when it comes to this stuff, if you want to just list the information on your planning sheet without a sentence, that's okay. But when we go to draft it, you need to turn it into sentences. Do we all understand what I mean by that? Okay, so that will be that. Now, like I said, by January 27th, you need to be done with half of this packet. What's half of 8? 4. So 4 whole pages have to be done by January 27th. Okay. And I would recommend that you kind of look through and breeze over, skimming and scanning what is included in each paragraph, so that if you hear something, Matthew, you're not focused. Sit up with your tummy to the table, please. If you hear something that's important, you can write it down. Okay, so here's one thing you could write down. Okay, early life and childhood, and it asks about what did they like to do as a child? Did they go to school? If so, for how long? What was their school experience? For people, do you think everybody has the same experiences? Yes or no? No. You want to tell the story about this person. So that's when what I write on these pages, you have to think about what would be important for your historical American. So for example, some historical Americans hated school. Should you write that down if they hated school? Yeah. Some were the top of their class. Should you write that down? Some only went to school for like 2 years. Some had mommies and daddies that taught them. Those are the facts that you should write down, making it understandable who your historical American is and what made them who they are. Okay, so your job, I would recommend tonight, is to kind of pop through. My recommendation would be to stick in early life and childhood and, oops, I skipped a page, birth and family life paragraphs. You can watch the videos here about how to write these things, and that will help you a lot. Okay, so that's historical American homework tonight. So when I say read for 20 minutes and fill in your planning sheet with 5 facts, that's what I mean. Are there any questions about that?